Hello, and welcome to Free Coffee. I'm your host, Allison, along with my buddy, Devon, and we are friends who like to talk about things.
We're trying to contribute radically candid discourse on topics that impact our daily lives. And today we're talking about policing in America, the present and future.
So we chatted with a former member of the Detroit Police Department to get some ideas on the perspective, someone who was in the force, in contrast with our views as folks who just feel the force. So let's go ahead and get into it. What do you think, Devon?
So I think we do need radical changes in the way that we police in America, but there's a lot of challenges, and it's complicated. You know, it's not black and white, the ways in which we do it. So when you talk about flatly abolishing the police, you know, I have no love for the institution, but they do work. I mean, not work. I'm saying they perform functions, and those functions still need to be addressed. So however we reorganize or, you know, we need to make sure that all those critical functions that the police are currently serving are being seen to by someone. And I'm not sure that anyone really has alternate services available for all the myriad of things that the police do in terms of, like, if we were talking about abolishing them. So I think most people are on the defund side, which is really talking about appropriating or reappropriating the funds that police get in their budgets to more favorably fund mental health services and all these other things that will hopefully make will affect change in general, but will make also the jobs of policing easier and less likely for violent outcomes and things like that. So I think it's complicated, but I think if we're talking about somewhere to start, we need to acknowledge what's really happening in both communities and also in police forces. And I think if, depending on what side of that argument you're on, you probably can see very clearly the faults of the other side, you know, and are probably really reticent to admit the faults of your team, you know, your side, so to speak. So that's where I'm at. I think that's a starting place.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said, though, for folks, what the argument is for abolishing the police. I think right now, in the course of this conversation, we're not really talking about abolishing the police, because personally, I think that's too big of a concept to think of right now. I think if we're really talking about abolishing the police, we're also talking about a whole bunch of other systems that have to be radically restructured if we were to eliminate police. So I think for the sake of this conversation, I don't even want to bring that concept into it, you know, and really go there. But I do want to, I'm saying right now, like, just to honor that concept, because I do know folks who believe in abolishing the police. And I think that there is, I appreciate the utopian perspective, and honestly, I would love to live in a world where we didn't have to have police and yada yada yada. But I don't think that's what we're talking about right now. Yeah, and I feel kind of icky saying that, because that also kind of feels dismissive. But
no, I sympathize. I think we all feel that. I understand what the emotional response that would make somebody say, you know, abolish the police, and it's based on the actions that the police have taken. But I do think it's a incomplete view of policing. If you're, for most people who are on that abolish the police bandwagon. Again, I don't care about the institution, but I'm just saying, for all of the things that they do, you have to present an alternative.
I don't believe you, Devon. You've got blue in your blood. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with
All
you.
lives matter. All lives.
Oh god. Okay. No, but no, spot on. And I think it is important though, and I'm glad that we did, that you do have connections to folks who can kind of speak from the perspective of the police force, and that's fire. So in doing that though, I guess I kind of want to talk about my history with the police too, in terms of like, um,
And then I'll do mine too. That's good. That's a good starting place.
yeah. So um, I feel like growing up, I as a young person in a predominantly white town, um, the police, it wasn't a scary concept. The police didn't get scary until I moved to a predominantly black space, and then that's where police start treating every, like, they have a hammer and everything is a nail. It goes from like, okay, this is when you use a hammer, to like, it's an abuse of the tool and of the system. I feel like it's happening in the city, and it's drastically impacted how I feel about the police as a system. Um,
And just to be clear, that tool is what?
that tool is police brutality. That tool is police force and presence. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, so, yeah, I feel like police are using their presence and the force to over police human beings, to make you feel like this is like everybody is dangerous. Oh my god, I just had a flashback of like my first day in middle school in Detroit, because going oh my god, this is weird. I remember going in the hallway, just walking down the hallway, and I saw that there were bars on the windows. And that immediately, I was like, oh my God, I'm in a school where there are bars on the windows.
Right, right.
And yeah, when you get into predominantly black spaces, you can see how hyper police they are. I'll say this: I was only at the middle school for 2 years, but um, I didn't see where the bars were ever needed. I don't know who was trying to break in there to get, I don't know, the chips and cookies that, I don't know, you could get from a school, but, or who was coming in, or I didn't see where they were necessary, but they were there. So this hyper policing of black spaces, I am familiar with, and that is why I think we do need to turn a hard eye on what the fuck is happening with policing in black spaces. And I think the way that it feels to have police presence in black spaces, um yeah, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right in black spaces to me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if it's just black spaces. I feel like there are some spaces where it's just not conducive to the mission um, of said space. Like a school, for example. Because, like you said, when you go into a school and there's bars on the window, or you have to walk through a metal detector, there is of course, you have a reaction. Everybody has a reaction to that. They're thinking, now I'm in a place where they need metal detectors and bars on the windows. And that puts everybody in a certain mindset. The teachers, the students, the security that works there, the police that come into the school. Um, and again, there's this line between poverty and blackness and crime and all these other things that gets jumbled together. And for anyone who doesn't care about the situation, which is most people who aren't living in that situation don't really give a flying fuck about what's happening in these schools, for example. um, I think it creates a certain perspective that makes all of those things interchangeable. Like, when you talk about poverty, when you talk about crime, when you talk about black people, people start using those words interchangeably because they're not intelligent enough to make the difference. Okay, no, well, maybe that's unfair. I don't know, but I'm saying that they haven't thought about these things enough.
No, you know what?
They don't have
Actually,
enough compassion. They don't
um,
see the humanity. I'm sorry. I'm done.
no, don't be done. I just want to actually just agree with you in that statement that I don't think everybody is aware when they say those things, when they interchange crime or high crime with black people and
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
poverty with black people. And I just want to call that out because those are different things, and yet people are using those things interchangeably. It reminds me of White Fragility, and where the author talks about a scenario. A friend is expressing that she moved to a city or a part of New Orleans, and she had to get a gun, and her having to get a gun was because it was, a high crime neighborhood, or something like that. And it's like, okay, um, but how many times did you have to use that gun? And actually, I'm kind of like jumping off, but I mean, like, it's like you get all these extra protections just because you, crime is synonymous with blackness in America. So there you go. Keep going.
absolutely, absolutely.
But your
Yeah.
experience with police, because you have a lot of stories. I have a couple of like crazy stories, but like you have some like crazy stories.
I don't, I have a few, but I think you got a few too, right? Anyway, well, yeah, let me tell you about some of my experiences when I was growing up. When I was growing up, I didn't interact with the law very much. Um, the stories that my parents, even the stories that my parents told me of the police, I did kind of think of that as a different time. And I think it's because I lived in a place that was majority black my entire life, you know. So and the police were black for the most part, and I didn't interact with them that much. My first interaction with the police was and this is just honest, this is radically candid. My first interaction with the police was I was at my grandmother's house, and I saw a guy get beat to death with a baseball bat, and the police came out and questioned the people that were around the body or whatever. I mean, the got carried off to in an ambulance, but they were around the scene, and I saw the dudes that did it actually, and they were talking. The police were questioning them, but then let them go because they didn't have any reason to hold them. Um, this is literally, I'm just literally sharing this experience. So, and then the next day homicide came, and that was my first real interaction with a police officer, was when homicide came to question us. And my grandmother was like, get off of my porch, I live here. You know what I mean? Like, she was scared that there would be some sort of retaliation or something. And so that was my very first interaction. And
I'm sorry, I want to clarify too. You're saying that she was saying this to the police. So the police were trying to get some comments or
yeah,
eyewitness perspective
about
from,
right, like some details about who she saw, what she saw, and all that. Because
and
she
she
just
was
called
like,
up.
no, I'm good.
She was
Cause
like, "No, I'm good." She was like,
now my house will be a target.
"Right." And I think she was a my grandmother was a single grandmother. She had us in the house. I must have been 5 or 6, super young. I'm saying 5, and my brother was there too, so he was 6 or whatever. Um, so she was probably thinking about that, and just you know, she felt like she couldn't risk it. Then as I got older, then that's when the really negative experiences with the police happened. I remember one time I was riding in a car. Okay, admittedly, I was skipping school. This is high school. I was skipping school. I was riding in a car with my friend, and I was chilling in the back seat. We were listening to music or something. He pulls into this apartment complex, and next thing I know, four Southfield police cars come out of nowhere, surround the car, pull guns out on us, like get the f out the car. I'm shook. because I don't know how many times, you know, people have had guns pointed at their face, but it's a very tense and stressful situation. you know,
Yeah.
you know, and you're like, oh my God, I'm about to die, and this is how I go. You know, you're thinking all these crazy things, right? Not crazy, not crazy. I mean, you're thinking all these things because there's a gun pointed at your head. And so they made us get out the car. They put handcuffs on me, um, and they sat us in the police car for a while and just held us there while they talked to my friends. They took my friend to jail who was driving the car, and they let the rest of us go because it was I think it was the car was full, so I think it was three of us in the car. Maybe it was just me and my friend Mario, but they said that they thought he was trying to run from them. I guess they turned on their lights and you know, but to me, you know, being a 16-year-old kid, and the fact that he did park, you know, the car at this complex didn't call for all that, obviously, you know, to me. And then I had another incident where a very, very similar thing happened, but he was even more benign. I was driving with my friend Aaron, and we was in Southfield somewhere, and they pulled us over with their guns drawn, uh, and told us to get out the car. That time nothing happened. They let us go, but they held us at gunpoint for a while. I mean, um, I've had 3 occasions where guns have been pulled on me, and they were all about the police. And I've never been in trouble for anything. I've never been arrested. I've never got a speeding ticket in Michigan. You know, I had that. And then as I got older, my experiences with the police have changed, had changed. And I don't think it's because I changed. I think it's because of, I grew out of their target demographic, and also, I guess the way I presented myself as I became older. But I think I grew out of their target, like, demographic for people who they think are committing crime. And my experiences became more positive, meaning that because I've been stopped by the police a bunch of times, and in general, they've been pretty cool. I've honestly had pretty cool, as an adult, I've had pretty positive interactions with law enforcement when I'm by myself. I remember that one time that we were together wasn't so great, but at the end of the day, though, you know, I think it was an unnecessary stop. But at the end of the day, even that experience,
Yeah.
you
Wasn't
know
it?
what I'm saying?
Didn't end up tragically at all.
Didn't end up
There were no
tragically at all.
tickets. There was no
We
record
didn't go to jail.
that
We
was
didn't got a
affected.
record. And we were in Livingston County. Now, for you people who don't know what that means, let's just say the reputation for Livingston County and Black folks is not the sterlingest.
Yeah.
You know, so we get to this point where we're talking about police brutality. And it's like, from my personal experience, it's like, I know what it means to be harassed by the police and be disrespected by the police. That has happened. I didn't mention that, but in those encounters, they were talking to us like we were pieces of shit, like we were trash. I know what that feels like, and to be powerless in those situations. So and that was wrong, and that's fucked up, and that happens all the time. I even in the circumstances where there was a positive outcome, I saw the change in the officer when I told them that I worked for Wayne State, for example, or that where I told them I was on my way to, or just because of the way that I was dressed. I saw the kind of the tension in their brow, you know, relax, or how I talk. And I think about if I was dressed different on that day, if I happened to have been dressed different, or if I had happened to be just chilling, just like going to see a friend, and I didn't, you know, I wasn't on my way to work, or I wasn't wearing a tie, or whatever the fuck the situation happened to be. And those situations could have and probably would have ended differently if I didn't go to college. Keeping it real, like when we were stopped together. I don't know what the officer asked you once we were all separated, but one of the things was like, you know, like, how do y'all know each other? And when I said that we all went to college together, it was like a, you know, it was a change in demeanor.
Oh, well, we grew up cooking crack. You know, now we're here. That's what he thought we were going to say.
And it's like, it's almost like by going to college, I purchased humanity or something, you know, like I've, in their eyes, I've somehow bought my way into some respect. And I think that's, and then of course I think about all the people who don't have that opportunity or didn't have that opportunity or just didn't go, and how those interactions could have gone different, and probably would have.
Yeah. 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 There's so many levels to that concept, and how Black folk experience police too. I think there are so many different experiences. There's I think even like in our experiences, we have bad experiences. We have experiences that's like, this shouldn't have happened with the police. This shouldn't have happened, but it's at the level where it is because I'm Black. But then it ends up being okay, regardless of me being Black, because I've been able to afford these other experiences and opportunities. And I think just, getting into how wealth and class impacts freedom, and also how Black people in America historically haven't had access to wealth, so that historical inaccessibility to freedom kind of continues the system. So I think it kind of goes perfectly into like, how does money go into defunding the police? You know, like just the concept of money, like where are we putting our dollars? Because it seems like there's this weird fetishizing happening of money. And then, when you have money, then you can do whatever you want. And I think that's what's happening with the police. And I think that's why people are calling to defund the police, because there's so much money there. And it says, oh, now you can do whatever you want. But the difference between the police and us is that they have guns and can kill us, and we don't have guns. And if we did have guns and killed them, it would be a totally different
Right. They have a
picture.
license to kill. They
Yeah.
do. They have. We've given them, as a society, we've given them that the grounds to make that call when that is necessary. Hence all of these shootings that have, and killings and chokings and that have happened with police officers over the past 5, 6, 7 years.
And us granting them that license, it's like we are granting them that license knowing that our likelihood is higher that we'll be killed. And it's like, I don't know how I feel about granting you that license, or saying like,
exactly,
well, here goes this card where it's like, yeah, you can kill whoever you want. I know people who look like me are most likely to be killed, but I trust you for the most part. And that's where it's like, oh.
And that's what I want people to understand. I really want them to really, really sit with that, because when we talk about things like the facial recognition program that the police are using, and we talk about, you know, the militarizing of the police, where they have, you know, like this military gear that's been given to them by the government and stuff. And there's people who argue that, yes, give it to the police because they need it, so they'll have a hand up on criminals, or they can fight crime better. Black people, when they hear that, I'm not speaking for all Black people, but a large contingent of us, when we hear that stuff like that, we know that those tools will be used disproportionately on us. There's a much greater chance that I will be shot in an encounter with the police, no matter what I'm doing. Whether look at Tamir Rice or Philando Castile or John Wallace, who got shot in the Walmart, and so on and so on. You don't have to be doing anything. Just being black and being in the motion of doing, being in the act of doing something on any given day makes it more likely that I'll be killed. And I'm not okay. It gives me pause, and it gives most black folks pause. And we're not as reticent to be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a good trade-off.
Whereas you're white, you're not thinking about that level at all, unless you're conscious and you're fighting for us, which there are a lot. It seems like at the moment. But a lot of white folks aren't cognizant of that reality, that piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. But no. And I don't even want to finish or continue what you're saying with a but. That's what that is. I think what's also happening here is the police perspective, and again, bringing back into we kind of hinted at the fact, not even hinted at, explicitly stated, we talked to a cop, right? And the cop told us what it feels like to be a black cop at this time, and we feel like that's an important conversation because as black people, knowing that we're disproportionately targeted as citizens, what does it feel like to be a part of this group that has this qualified immunity, that has this license to take black lives, when they feel it's necessary? And I think some of the things that we talked about, I'm glad I don't have any cops around me really, so it's kind of cool to just be able to hear the opinions of what it feels like. It's tough though, because I also don't want to go off of like there are good cops. It's like, I do believe that there are good cops, but are there good cops in a bad system? And
right
how, and kind of changing those things. So I think the cop that we spoke with talked about trying to be a good cop in a bad system, and the ways in which there are police trying to work within the system to address these larger concerns. But then we also know, or we all not even know, but also in this, as the conversation is rolling, we hear the reality of black folk who really are like not afraid of the cops. You know what I'm saying? Like, true story, you're talking to and you're looking at two black folk who are afraid of the cops. I hate to even like say it like that, and I don't want to speak for you. Actually, I'm gonna speak for me. No, you can. When somebody puts a gun in my face, or when those cops, when those red and blue lights start flicking behind me, I fucking get scared. Yeah. I feel like I might die for some bullshit. Right. I'm not a criminal. I'm not any more of a criminal than your average Joe. You know what I mean? Like,
right. We can say that.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, there's no blood on my hands. You know what I mean? I'm generally trying to take care of myself, my community, my country, as much as any good-hearted
anybody else, if not more so.
If not more so. But I don't want to put myself on a pedestal. Just be like, a regular person. I feel like that. But yeah, it's scary. It's scary to see cops, and it's like, I don't always know how a cop feels when they pull me over, and for that reason, it makes me feel like so much has to be done, regardless of if they're good cops. Because like, yeah, they've ended in, like I said, like, I'm obviously not dead. I'm here to speak on it right now, but like, every fucking time I get stopped by the police, not even stopped, fuck stopped, because I'm not getting stopped by the police all willy-nilly. But if there's a cop behind me, I'm freaking the fuck out. If there's a cop on the side of me, I'm like, okay, don't look suspicious. And it's like, why do I feel like this?
Right. Right.
That's actually disgusting that like people who are supposed to protect me make me feel like today could be my last moment every time they come up because
And that
I don't know where
there's
their
a
heart is.
large segment of the population who likes that. They're like, yeah, keep them on edge, keep them on their toes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's
But it's
not
like, oh, go
obviously.
ahead.
No, keep going.
Um,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, but I mean, like for the population of people who feel like that, it's like you're wasting your money. Like defund the police because you got the wrong person. I'm headed home. You know what I'm saying? I'm headed home. I'm going to work in the morning. You know, that's what it is. That's what that is. I'm trying to pay off these student loans. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so while so many people are putting all this money into we need to keep the streets safe, we need to keep the streets safe, you have to acknowledge that most of the people that you're policing are really just going home. They're going home. They're not gangsters and criminals and thugs. And wherever those people are, it's like, how do you identify crime and address crime, but also not paint this picture that just because you're black, you're a criminal? And I think that's where it's defund that shit. The money's not going to where it needs to go. You're actually wasting a lot of your money. And you're making me feel like, is this a system to be trusted?
Now that is a great moment to segue into this next point, which is that I'm really sad that I don't have a police officer on the show right now to talk about their perspectives. So I'm going to have to do it for them. And I'm going to try my best. Because so you've heard, this is how we feel, this is how I feel. Now, when it comes to policing in America and the way that people view police, I think that there is a problem on our side as well, meaning that I think people are very disconnected to what is actually happening in the world around them. I mean, when you talk about the full spectrum of humanity and like what police officers are actually dealing with on a day to day and the fear that they face on a day to day, they're getting paid to face that fear, but it doesn't really change the fact they're human beings and that they are afraid in a country that's so saturated with guns, and in this space that we're in now where there's this heightened hatred of police. I'm not equating that with like the protests or anything. I'm just saying in the country in general, that emotions are heightened right now, and that they don't know what's going to happen with a stop because of how the institution, largely, I think, because of how the institution of policing has interacted with the public for decades. And now there's this animosity towards police that, again, I believe that the institution has largely brought on itself. But regardless, we're talking about the difference between individuals and the institution itself, because we as a society are still empowering these individuals to do this job that we have deemed is necessary right now in the present day, and so I don't blanketly fault individuals for the actions of the institution, because someone has to do those jobs, because we don't have an alternative for a lot of the things that they do. I think that from an officer's perspective, there are some truths that Black folks, I don't even. I wish there was another voice that could say, because I know that people who want to interpret these words in different ways can and will, but anyway, that there are some truths that we don't. Go ahead.
I just always feel like I want to be able to say black or white or whatever in with the asterisks, and that's like automatically attached.
Always.
You know
Always.
what I mean? I want that
Yeah.
to just be a running theme for this show that people
Yes.
know
The
that if
absolutes
we
do not exist. Whenever I'm speaking and I say black or white, I am I am lying essentially because that is a generality, and there is no such thing. But I think I'm just saying a large portion of black folks.
I don't want to say I don't want to call it lying because I feel like that expresses some
Yes,
intention
right, right.
and to deceive, and that's not what's happening. But I
Thank you.
think what we're speaking to is in the community that I know, which is largely black, but it is not every single black perspective, nor is it the black perspective, as the black perspective is not a thing,
Mhm.
as there is no white perspective or Asian perspective or Native American perspective.
But for ease of conversation, I may say black, I may say white. I'm not speaking in absolutes. I'm speaking generally for the ease of conversation. Throw that out there. Okay. So I think that black folks, we tend to want to ignore some of the truths of our community. And one of those truths is that black people do disproportionately commit crime. Sounds racist, not racist. And I'm going to explain why. Because black people are disproportionately in poverty. We've been disproportionately denied access to homes, to employment, which we know links to things like crime and poverty, obviously, right? And anytime you have that, it breeds a certain culture. I read this book called A Framework of Poverty. It's by Rudy K. Payne. I read it a long time ago. But it talks about how generational poverty, how you see these mindsets and this culture that arises in families that are generationally impoverished, meaning that it is not a temporary setback, but we're talking about a way of life, and how it changes the way that you look at your interactions with the world in general, and what is and norms and societal norms and things like that. And oftentimes, in extreme cases of poverty, it leads to criminality, and I think that is just a generally data wise a true statement. But there are people who will say the reason why it's hard for me to say it as a black person is because there are people who will use that reality to say, because they don't really give a fuck, they're just trying to prove whatever point they're trying to make. They'll use that data to say that black people are criminals because they are black, is the insinuation, you know. And that's why it's hard, because we can't afford to really give ammo to our enemies, because we are in a vulnerable place in the country and in the world. And I feel like me saying that is kind of giving ammo, but it's also an important truth, because it does help put some things in context. Um and and then it also helps you focus on what is the real problem. You know what I mean? When we talk about lack of access to resources being the fundamental problem of impoverished communities, which happen to be, generally speaking, poverties that experience more crime, populations that experience more crime, and populations that have more police presence in them, because the police are reacting to what's happening in these impoverished communities. So, and I think for the police, they are often saying that you don't want to acknowledge that, and they are flatly saying, because these aren't Rhodes Scholars, I'm saying, they're no diss to police officers, I'm saying, these are mostly simple folk though, and y'all know that I'm not lying. but they are just saying because you are black. Now, there's a lot of smart police officers. Obviously, they're, you know, no diss. I'm really not meaning to
Yeah,
diss.
yeah, yeah. I mean, most people are average people. So,
Right, 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 right.
you know,
Um,
there are some brilliant people. There's rocket scientists who still think about race like kindergartners. So,
right,
you know,
exactly, exactly.
there's that. Um, no, and yo, thank you for saying that. Thank you for rounding that out too, because I feel like a lot of times when I hear conversation, when I hear Black folk in public spaces talking about Black people doing crime, it really comes from this respectability politics sort of standpoint. And it's like, you will be respected when you start acting a certain way. You know, when you act a certain way, then, or, and even framing it, I feel like a lot of Black folk will frame it as acting more white. You know what I mean? Which is like disgusting.
It is. It's disgusting. Yeah.
So because it's not acting white. It's
It's
not acting
disgusting on
white
many
at
different
all.
levels. Yeah, like
Mhm.
it's just like it's almost it's meta because it's like that statement is disgusting in its own right, but then it's also like that you equate whiteness with, you know,
Yeah, some sort of moral high ground,
purity, moral
purity.
background. Yeah, that's also, and it's all wrapped up in that, and which is why it's like, anyway, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think, um, yeah, I don't think a lot of people spend the time, and a lot of people with mouthpieces and platforms are spending the time talking about why. Like, why is there a culture of crime? Why does that exist? It doesn't exist just because Black people love crime. It's because they're people who've been systematically disenfranchised. Like, when the fact that we're even having the conversation in a country that was established in the 1800s, like, about how Black people act, the country was built on racial identity politics. And it's like, it's the fact that we have this country built on racial identity politics that's like,
For the trolls, it's the 1700s, and they're gonna say something.
well, I was thinking, oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking of slavery ending.
Oh,
and
right.
and I think in some sort of way that is America
That's real.
actually starting.
That's real. That's real.
Like, whatever that was, I don't know. But so actually, but thank you for the trolls. Yes, 1776. Don't try me, ho. I know what time it is. Don't try me. um, so yeah, I think I think the point what I was starting all of this with was how important it is to round out. I think as Black folk, it is important to say the whole argument, and hearing how politics work too. Like, I fucking hate the Dems versus the Republican ass
Yo, man.
conversation of,
Terrible.
because really people paint this idea like Black folk have no intellect, no mind of their own, and it's just like, all we do is just follow the
Yeah.
the Democratic Party. And it's like, any Black person who's really politically active has a mind of their own, and they're deciding.
Not even politically active, but I just like conscious about the world around them. I don't even like to say politically
I think
active because it's
that's
a
what.
lot like buying into the, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
no, and that what you said is a way better way to say it. That is the point that I'm getting at, though. I think, like, if you're
Yeah.
even thinking about who would I want to run my city and why does that matter to me and how does that impact me and my family, means that you're, like,
Yeah.
you're not just
Yeah.
following anybody blindly. And
Hmm.
yet that is the image that's being painted of Black people. Like, we don't have a mind and we just follow any old body.
And it's
Like,
like,
what is that?
y'all, it's like, I get that this is the system we have. So it's like, I guess it's our obligation to follow, but it's also like, this clown ass country. Are you really going to look down on us for not following this nonsense? You know what I'm saying? I
Shit.
can't look down on anybody. This is because because look, I do believe, like, you know, you can't. Look, people out there, don't pretend like you know politics and like you're so well informed that you know it don't matter when you don't really know it at all. You know what I'm saying? That's problematic. But also, even folks who don't really know all the ins and outs, when they say it really don't matter who's going to get in office because neither one of these candidates really have our best interests. Are there's a truth to that, and that's not even just a black truth. That is born out of this fucked up system that we have, where we are picking teams instead of really debating ideas and trying to solve problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not even being honest because the whole system isn't honest. And how can you have a discussion to solve a problem when you're not being honest about what the problems or solutions are? Everybody's twisting them to their own advantage. It's like it literally is a game. It literally is a game, and everyone knows it, and we're okay with that. You know, like our governance is a matter of gamemanship. Who wins? Look, Donald Trump is president for real. You know what I mean? Like, it's still shocking to the conscience when you think about it. How did this man become the single voice of America? Even conservatives, they might be happy that he's president, the worst of them, but you have to admit, we're not talking about the smartest you have to offer. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about the most capable. We're really talking about the one who won the game. You know what I mean? So that, anyway, I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent, but
no, go off on tangents. Go off on fucking tangents, because it's like that is what's happening. And I think it's tough. It's tough to address all of it in one thing. You know what I mean? But it's like, coming back to police, it's like when you have an idiot who is the commander in chief, who's saying we need law and order, has no understanding of shit, you know, through his own demonstration of like, you don't get it. And yet this system puts you up number one. And I see people defending your dumb ass every day. Like, where are we at?
James Baldwin had said, he said, oh man, what did he say? He was talking about the moral, oh damn, I'm mad I forgot the quote. He's talking about the moral decay of America, the moral deficits of this country and how they're on display for the world to see. The fact that conservatives, which again, you know, we're just put the gamemanship aside for a second. Put the gamemanship aside for a second. When we talk about conservative or, you know, progressive or liberal, whatever you want to say, we're really talking about a bunch of ideas where people don't want things to change because the current system is benefiting them, and other people who want the system changed because the current system is not benefiting them. I think when you're in the category where the system is benefiting you, most people don't want that to change. And that's why I say most people are conservative. The true liberal, like myself, I would include myself in that count, by the way. The true liberal is not concerned about where they stand on the totem pole. You know what I mean? It's like, this isn't right. In that sense, I'm sorry, because I'm being affected right now. But I think that when you're a conservative and you have conservative values and you vote for someone like Donald Trump, who literally stands for everything that you detest, you know, I'll say it. If Barack Obama was like, you know, I'm walking around on he's caught on a recording saying he's grabbing women by the pussy, if he has 3 baby mamas, you know what I'm saying? If he's, or everybody that he has appointed is in jail or on charges, and you know what I'm saying, they will be calling him a thug and that he's a gangster president, and
Yeah,
they'd be
low life
low life. He first off, he wouldn't be in office.
at
Keeping it
all. We
real,
wouldn't know who he was.
we
We
that
wouldn't
would
know
have
who he
been a
was,
short
regardless of how
run
much
or a
money
fast
he
game.
had.
No matter how much money, it wouldn't matter if he's, was worth $1 trillion. It wouldn't matter at all. And I lost my point. I'm just going to concede the floor to you. But the bottom line is,
you were spitting heat. You're spitting heat. Oh man, that kind of made me want to. They made me think about the fact that Kanye West is running for president and what his real chances are. But I also don't want to go too deep.
I don't want to go too deep in that. But before we clown Kanye,
who? Say it again.
I said I don't want to get too deep into that. But before we clown Kanye,
I had no intention to clown him. But...
No, yeah, I know. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about the world at large. I just remind you that Donald Trump is president, and he is also a narcissist. He also is suffering from mental issues. You know what I'm saying? And he's president, so it could happen. I don't think Kanye should be president. I would never vote for Kanye. I can literally say that that won't happen. But why do we look at Kanye being president as so much different than Trump being president? They're both successful. You know what I'm saying? They both have created these empires around their brand. I don't know that they're all that different. I really, really don't. I think that Kanye is prone to wanting attention in the media in a way that Trump doesn't want attention in the media. But when it comes down to it, I think they're both mentally unstable. Yeah. And I don't like when folks just straight up dismiss Kanye West. It's a visceral reaction. He should be straight up dismissed. I can acknowledge that. But I don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Especially when Donald Trump is president. When you let Donald Trump be president, and then we're sitting over here critiquing Kanye West. No, I hear that. I agree with that. I would want people to have more respect for the position and just honestly get in where you fit in and not treat it like, while I do understand, going back to the gamemanship, I do understand the game nature and theory of life and that experience. But I think anybody can, if you're willing to go there, convince me that we can't create a utopia. Convince me. You know what I mean? Like, in the same way that you can convince me that all this is a simulation and it's a game and we have to do this to compete and we have to do all this other bullshit. It's like, why can't we do that? We're aware of it. And I don't think that's the conversation. And also, I don't want to go too deep. And I think we've gone hella deep. Y'all don't even know what I'm talking about at this point.
We're talking about policing in America and its present and future.
Yeah, we're talking about policing in America. So, like, I fuck 45 and Kanye West and them being president and all that bullshit. But back to just how do we deal with police presence in our communities? I think, perfect timing though. Kamala Harris just got the fucking VP, credentials with my man Joe Biden, and the running mate thing. So, thinking about top cop. You know what I mean?
Look, I honestly think that Kamala is probably a decent human being. Probably. I don't know her. I don't know what the fuck she stands for. But I think that fundamentally she believes very different things than I do. I think she does not see that the world and the system is in a greater state of crisis than I think she's willing to admit. But that being said, I don't think, people, man, the world is a sexist place. The country in particular is a sexist place. The hate that's being aimed at Kamala, because at the end of the day, just like Hillary Clinton, She's no worse than any other politician. Again, I find myself in the same place. I mean, she is a standard politician by any measure or accord because of what she did as a district attorney. She's a district attorney. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hear you. I hear the unfair treatment of black men. I trust me. I hear you 100%. But at best, or at worst, I should say, she's Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's problematic too? But guess what? Guess what your choices are in November?
Yeah,
Anyway.
you know what though? I think there is something to be said for if you have to choose, and people act like that's not a real thing. And it's like, you know what? I think people choose every fucking day. And I don't think we're always choosing out of ideal situations. We constantly choose the better of two flawed options every fucking day. So like, why is it so crazy to be like, okay, well, I'll choose a Kamala Harris Biden ticket. You know what I mean?
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Over a fucking
Stop
Trump.
it.
Like,
because you sound stupid. People be like, I think Trump is better than Biden. And I'm like, what? How? How, Sway?
Yeah.
By what measure? By what measure?
Yes. I don't think like people are so much that they are going to.
I literally saw somebody say that today on Facebook. I'm sorry.
No, you good.
I literally saw that though. Somebody was like, I would rather, because they said Joe Biden is a pedophile. So I would rather have Trump than a pedophile. And there's so many logical fallacies behind that. No doubt Joe Biden has an inappropriate relationship to touching women. I don't know what the fuck that's about. That's weird. I don't think that makes him a pedophile. And I think being a pedophile is a very specific thing. You know what I'm saying? Because you inappropriately touch children doesn't necessarily,
hilarious. All right. Like, actually, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Just because you touch kids doesn't mean you can't govern a country.
Listen.
Don't you know that?
Let me clarify that shit, because that's not what I meant. It just is coming out weird. But
they can get my taxes right, okay? I'm trying to get my 40 acres and a mule. I don't care if you touch kids. I'm just talking shit.
No, for real. Look, these videos of him stroking kids' cheeks on camera it's not evidence that he's a pedophile. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying he has a weird relationship. I'm not saying it's appropriate. I'm not saying it's right. What I am saying is I don't think Joe Biden's a pedophile. I really don't. I really don't think that's what's happening. I do think he should stop touching people. You know what I mean? But I think those are two nuanced things.
Fair. Honestly, I feel like it comes down to me with Donald Trump. It's just like every time I hear you talk, you actually sound dumb as fuck to me. Like you actually sound dumb, and that irritates my spirit. Like,
yeah, I don't understand how it doesn't irritate everyone's spirit.
That's the thing. Like, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. So that's where I'm like, look, at least every time Joe Biden talks, it doesn't irritate my spirit.
Right.
That's where I'm at with it.
No,
you know what I mean?
About
so if I had to choose, I would choose the dude who doesn't irritate my spirit every fucking time he has something to say.
I follow politics a lot, and I feel like I've never heard a Trump impromptu talk where I came away thinking that guy is not an idiot. Yeah. It's never happened. Not one time. When he talks, I feel like I'm getting dumber. And that's literally for the leader of the free world.
I feel like if Donald Trump and I were like in elementary school, I would have been his bully. You know, I wouldn't have. I'd have been like, "Shut the fuck up, dumbass." You know what I mean? Like, I would have been so mean. I would have been like terrible to this guy, and that's where I'm like, I shouldn't feel like that about my president. I shouldn't feel like I actually would have treated you like shit. And I'm also not saying that to condone bullying. I'm just saying that kids are harsh. You know what I'm saying? You say things, you don't know what you're saying all the time. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what you're really saying. But like, I wouldn't have liked this guy because I'm like, that's not adding up, bro. It's not adding up. And I'm going to call you out and embarrass you about the fact that it's not adding up.
I think kids bully. Look, I know there are some extreme cases, but I do think there's also an argument for making your, okay, you know what? This is a rabbit hole.
Yep, we're digressing into the next episode of Free Coffee.
Bullying. We're going to put that on the next episode.
Actually, you know what? And I think it really does deserve its own space, though. For a full contextualized conversation, because I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, this was a really good conversation. We were talking about police in America, and they leave with like, it's okay to be a bully. Like,
yeah, definitely not.
Don't leave with that. It's not okay to be a bully.
I wish I could provide all the context, but I'm not.
You know, and that's where we should give people the context on another chat, on a whole another chat. So, I mean, honestly, in so many ways, I think we really did get through a lot of our feelings about policing in America. What it looks like in the future, we didn't really go too deep in, but I think like so much of that does depend on our political activity. I mean, like America's political activity and wanting to get involved in holding the people that we put into office accountable or being that person. You know what I'm saying? How many people want to say, hey, how can I get involved with making sure that my community is safe? How can I be the person involved with making sure that my city is safe, my house is safe, my family is safe, whatever the fuck that is? I think all of that
are things that everybody can relate to. There isn't a soul in this country that can't relate to that in some way, shape, or form. And that's what we need to coalesce around, that sentiment, and then interject the barriers for us. And then so maybe people can understand, but you know, the way we talk about policing in America and the future of it. Let me just say this, and I will end on this. We can wrap it up. Yeah. But the future of policing in America, I think, rests on acknowledgments. A acknowledgement of I forget what they call it in South Africa. They called it in South Africa, truth and reconciliation. I think that we have to have a truth and reconciliation with ourselves, as well as a truth and reconciliation with the police, which we're already good at. We already got them on lock. The police need to have a truth and reconciliation with us as well as themselves. You know what I'm saying? We need to start honestly looking at what are the problems and the cause of the problems and what we believe as a society, because it really does come down to believing that human beings are equal. You know what I mean? Really. I mean, because once you start there, I really feel like everything else kind of falls into place. You start to see why things are why they are. But I think a lot of people are just challenged. They're challenged fundamentally with that assertion that human beings are equal. Because
they are so connected to those racial identity politics. Keep going. But yeah, I think that is why we have a hard time understanding humanity, because the first thing that we are is our race.
Mm-hmm. And then you start, if you can understand that we are all equal in being human beings, you can feel free to search for the things that you don't know and you don't understand as to why people are dealing with certain issues or have certain obstacles. You can start to look for that. One thing that I don't like is the idea that another race or another type of person can't understand your experience. Because it's true. They will never, like, I'm a black man. You'll never know what it's like to be a black man. That does not mean you can't understand the struggles and obstacles that I'm facing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's almost like a dishonest conversation. It's like, you don't need to be me to understand what I'm going through. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like when you put it that way, like, you'll never understand, just agree with me. You'll never understand. Just agree with what I'm saying. It's like, actually, no, man. You have to prove what you're saying is real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or convince. That's just human nature. No one's going to just believe you. You know, I mean, I understand that there are some things you have to understand are you just won't get unless you're in my shoes. And that's a real space as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's some things you just won't understand unless you're in those shoes. But for me to communicate what I'm trying to get you to change, when I'm trying to get you to like to alter your behavior on, I don't think that's like some foreign concept that you just can't wrap your mind around because you're not me. I don't believe that for most shit. You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about poverty and redlining and all these other things, all these other issues, these barriers to employment and judging people based off of their names or whatever you want to talk about. I don't need you to know what it's like to be a black man to understand that that's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? I don't even what?
No, yeah,
You know?
I don't need you to be a black man to understand. Yeah, like not understand, but like,
or
yeah,
a black woman. You know what I'm saying? Whatever
it is. Exactly. And you know what? I think that is such a big thing that people aren't we're still working through, you know, like how does that become part of the collective consciousness? Who writes the book on it? Who all says these things? Because more of these conversations need to be had. So many Americans are connected to their racial category. And it is a fucking lie. Like, how can we separate people from that and say, not to eliminate your culture, but to eliminate the category that says you are this because of this and you are that because of that, you know, whatever the fuck that is. So yeah, it just greatly impacts how police how the police interact with who we are, because they aren't interacting with people as humans. They're interacting with white people in general. Police are interacting with white people as humans and with black people as black people. Whatever that means. You know what I'm saying? Like, that means, and the way that Americans have been indoctrinated with what it means, what black means. It means dangerous, criminal, scary, murderous, all this other shit. And it's like, can we change that? Because that's not even fucking true. Can we defund that idea? Because y'all putting a whole lot of money into the idea that that's what's happening, and you're wasting your money.
A fucking man.
You know? Yeah, you're wasting your money. You're throwing it at the wrong thing. You know, actually throw it at the bad guys. Stop throwing it at black people, because it's really, really fucked up. And just absolutely wrong. And America will be stronger if we reconsider these things and have more money, because they actually went to like things that matter and not dumb shit.
Yo, this has been a great conversation. Let me say that, Allison, I love you. I love you.
I love you too, man. Oh my God. This is why it's so important that we do this work. You know, we have these conversations because we are changing the world.
We are changing the world, one mind at a time. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Free Coffee. My name is Devon Redmond.
Yo.
All
right here.
The show. This is our show. We do this. We'll hope to see you next time. Till then, stay woke.
Stay woke.
Stay woke.